We're rolling, Willie.
Bussin with the boys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. The boys are here to react and talk about the college football national championship.
National champions, Ohio State Buckeyes. Congrats. Let's give a round of applause. Congrats to the Buckeyes. Congrats to the Big Ten. Stays home yet again. Do we want to go over bracket first? Do we want to go over the game first? Well, just set the tone, Willie.
How close was Nebraska this year? Right?
Yeah, 4 points.
Right?
Hey, right?
4 points?
Yeah, well, they were close.
Nah, I think what I'm most we kind of knew how that game was going to go. You get even closer to the game, your emotions start to get involved. You really start to root for the Irish. You really start to feel everything that Freeman's saying. You want it for the boys. You want it for the tradition of football. But deep down, we all knew how this game was probably going to go, and I think it went that way.
I think it went better for the Irish than we expected it to go, actually. Like the first drive of that game, taking up half the quarter.
Riley Leonard.
Yeah, Riley Leonard. You could tell the kid was absolutely gassed. Gassed after the first drive. He's over on the sideline getting oxygen, and then Ohio State just, you can't stop him on offense.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame had a shot at the end.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I did say all that. They did make a big push at the end to where if they were to scrap up any of that second half play into the first half, you listen to Freeman at halftime. He's like, we're just doing uncharacteristic things like penalties, false starts, guys out of position, just doing the wrong things. Mm-hmm. You could just see it in his body language that he's just like disappointed that that's how they got there. He's like, are we not? We need to cut aside all the bullshit. The lights should not be too bright for us right now. We're just doing things that are out of character. Right. Like if they could have, we would be talking about a different story. But Ohio State, after Notre Dame marches down and puts it on their ass, Ohio State just bounced back and just destroyed them.
Will Howard starting out 13 of 13.
Incredible. And that is a tip of the cap to a guy like Chip Kelly. Knowing that, hey, we got Will Howard, we need to get him comfortable immediately. Let's get a high percentage throws out there, get him accurate, get him moving. And dude, they had a phenomenal game plan. Ohio State, they did a great job.
Yeah.
But that first drive, you watch that drive and you're like, that's exactly what Notre Dame needs to do if they're going to have a chance to win this game. Eat up the clock, get into third and manageables, operate. And honestly, you don't want chunk plays if you're Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. You want to death by 1,000 cuts. That's how you wanted to operate, take up time of possession, and keep Ohio State's offense off of the field. They did a great job in the first quarter. Like they were up in the first quarter, and then Ohio State got the ball.
I know.
Killed the bet.
Killed the parlay. That parlay was so funny too.
Yeah. Great, yeah. So I had a parlay before. There's 2 parlays I put in. I had the one where I took Ohio State money line for every quarter and put it together. And it was like, what, over plus 500 with the little boosty that they gave us in the sports book, the DraftKings sports book. And I thought I thought it was going to cook. But flip side, the other 3 quarters won.
Yeah. Every leg of the parlay hit except for the first leg.
It's always the first leg that gets me too. God. I text the group chat, said, guys, great news. Parlay's already dead.
It's dead.
First leg gone.
And it was such a fast first quarter too, the way they were just eating up
I
time.
know.
It like literally, it was what, 15 minutes? Literally took 15 minutes. It was
By
just
the time
bing,
Notre
bang,
Dame
boom.
got the ball back the second time, I want to say there was like 4 minutes left when they had the ball. I was like, man, there's no chance that Ohio State's going to have this money line here.
I know. And I mean, but yeah, looking at Marcus Freeman, his leadership as a coach is incredible. Being down 28 points halfway through the third quarter. Like if they would have just turned on, found a way to scrap and got points at the end of that half, so Ohio State didn't double dip on them, we could be talking about a completely different game.
Yeah, because Notre Dame played well in that second half. Like even when they had the opportunity, it's like they scored, and that's when they got the 2-point conversion. So it was 15. What?
Yeah. By the way, Notre Dame's 2-point conversions were elite.
Yeah,
all of them.
And then so they get the 2-point conversion. They get the ball back when it's down 31-15, and Ohio State makes them punt, which was like, oh, that was probably their shot right there. But they get the ball back again to still have the opportunity. Like they were playing good.
They missed that field goal too. Banged it off the post.
A short one. How long was that field goal?
Probably like 28 yards, 32.
Bro, that's to go down 13 points. Like
they're kind of saying, why did you kick that anyways? Is there a world
like, yeah, you could, even though it's 4th and goal from like, I don't know, what was it, the 8-yard line, the 12-yard line? Like I feel like there's an argument there, and I don't know anything about the stats of maybe going for it on 4th.
You're talking about the
it doesn't do anything for you. It's still a 2-possession game.
Still, exactly, a 2-possession game.
So they're down 16, they go for the field goal. If they make it, they're down 13. Like it is still a 2-possession game.
Right.
Wouldn't you go for it? And if you fail, you at least keep them down on that field or side of the field, and then you try and use field position to your advantage.
True. Yeah, that's given if they were to make the field goal, right? Because they missed the field goal, they end up in the same position.
No, but what
I'm
G's saying is if you go, if you go for it and you don't get it, at least they're backed up. You still have your 3 timeouts. Even if they go for it and they get the touchdown, they're playing the same game. You're kicking it deep, and it's going to be around the 20-yard line. You still have your 3 timeouts. Like, you're still playing ball. It's like kicking a field goal. You're not really doing anything.
Yeah, it doesn't. I see what you're saying. Yeah, it doesn't move.
Because if you miss, it's just like not converting on 4th down. If you make it, you're still down 2 possessions.
Right.
Like, you needed to take a shot there and try to score on that 4th and goal from like the 8 or 9 yard line versus kicking the field goal. And that kid missing the field goal. It's like, son of a bitch. You got to remind yourself that these are just kids. Because if that's an NFL guy, you
crucify him.
You have to.
Yeah.
Who knows? He might be getting paid.
But you remember when we...
these kids get paid now. Maybe we can
yell
take
at them
shots
now. We can yell at them.
Yeah.
When we were at Notre Dame, Indiana, I remember when we were starting to leave, that kicker was up there, and I was like, hey, this kid's got to make it. Some lady, some stewardess was just like, no. Like, this kid's been shaky all year. So Notre Dame fans have been on that kid's head for a minute now.
Yeah.
Mitch Jeter. Former Gamecock. Damn.
I mean, they Notre Dame had a hell of a year. They'll be back in the mix.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Can I say this?
Bomb.
I don't hate the call.
Which call?
The cover 0.
Why, dude? How many times
I know.
are we going to be on this show talking about a game?
Cover 0.
Cover 0. When a game is on the line and you are in 3rd and statistically the defense should win, whatever number that is, 8, 10, 12, and you go cover 0. And you have the amount of firepower on the outside for Ohio State. What are you thinking? What are you possibly thinking? You had this kid with inside leverage at the sticks saying, please God, Jeremiah Smith, do not do this to me. And all he does is run towards him, has him stop his feet for a second, and then fades off into the distance. It's just tough, dude. You have to get to the quarterback. You have to get to the quarterback if you're going to run 0.
And they cooked that DB the whole game.
I know. So the thought process of running 0.
I hate it for that DB who's going to see you saying that. Because they're all killing themselves right now.
Yeah. And there's not much he could do. I mean
he
would be in position a lot of times, and
Smith
you
is
can't guard
him.
him.
And they can be bummed about all those plays at the end of the game. They're going to, like, as a player, you're going to be beating yourself up about it. But you just, as a team in that first half, you don't let that game get away from you. It could be a completely different story. Their outcome, because they got down so much. They were just fighting to come back the whole time, and they're not like a team. They're not an offense that's built to be coming back, throwing the ball.
They're not. No.
Game.
Well, you look at the past playoff games they had. Who'd they play? Was it Penn State? Or no, they played Georgia, and Riley Leonard had 80 yards, 90 yards throwing.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to take a massive step a couple weeks later and have some of the throws he did in that game, couple of fades, couple of darts here and there, he threw really well. What was it? Number 13. I'm probably not getting the number right. That receiver.
Number 1.
Just missing a 3. That kid went off. That tight end, when that little slant up the middle, and he just moved around a couple of guys, 260 pounds.
Next Michael Mayer.
God, dude.
That touchdown was sick, too.
I know.
Because you're like, holy shit, they might actually do this.
And then they get that turnover late, that fumble when they're just getting gashed and someone just knocks the ball out. It's like exactly what you needed. Yeah, they went 3 and out. But still, the hype coming off the chair, like, yo, they might fucking do this.
They might do it. And because their defense,
when it's
that back half
31-7,
of the 3rd quarter through the 4th quarter, were standing up and handling that high-powered offense. Where they could really get it done.
Because it's 31-7. You're thinking, yo, this is like...
I was about to turn it off. I knew we were going to do this today. I was like, I turned it off in the 3rd quarter. I was about to say.
I was starting to get out of
I was like, I'll watch one more drive, and it ended up getting a little bit interesting at the end. But the reality is, like, they lost by 11. That sucks.
I mean, it was a long shot for them to come back.
Yeah. Bets hit, though.
Bets hit.
The
one that I put in, the big one, was Ohio State to cover, and I parlayed it with Ohio State to have like over 24.5 points. Mm-hmm. So it was only like plus 150, but still. At least I got to win. You got to find a win.
I took Ohio State minus 8.5 like a week ago, right when I think whichever team won second. Like, it was like, all right.
When the first quarter ended and that first leg missed and Notre Dame was looking strong at that point, I was like, I can't win anything.
Dude, the amount of freezing cold we have been with our bets.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what the locker room's going to look like. Were you 1-9 last week? I was
1-9 last week. I think I picked them pretty good.
Yeah, I think you went the opposite of me because I think I went 1-9 this week.
Yeah.
because it was tough sledding out there,
dude,
boys.
it's a tough sport. Gambling's a tough sport.
Tough sport. Just got to keep swinging.
You got
to keep swinging responsibly. That's all you got to do.
The ball
dude.
will bounce our way at some point.
Yeah, Jaden Greathouse.
Hey, but to talk about the cover zero, I don't hate it. If you're going to run cover zero, the defense has to be so dialed in on what you're trying to accomplish, because like this isn't the formation that they were in. But if you're looking at the free safety and the Mike linebacker, they're sending everybody. They're in a max pro look. So what I mean by max pro look is they have the offset back, the tight end set up on the opposite side, but he's in an off position. So they're set up to basically stay inside and protect. So the two guys that have them in man-to-man and cover zero is you got the middle linebacker and you have the free safety who's covering the tight end.
Yeah.
Like you have to hug and just be blitzing immediately unless they were just to flare out. And there was hesitation on the safety in this graphic that I'm looking at. The free safety, there's hesitation him going in because he's kind of like eyeing his tight end, which you need everybody going because in cover zero you have one extra guy that they can account for. So Will Howard, but also credit to Will Howard. Like once he got into his 3-step drop, he let it spin. But what you're trying to do defensively is you ultimately have to think I'm rushing first. And if a back flares, you got Peel on the ends and the guy who has the tight end man-to-man, it's like you just got to know the second level of the game that they are in a max pro look with the tight end off and the back away from him. Mm-hmm. So you got to be thinking I'm blitzing first, not covering first. And just that little bit of hesitation is all you need and all the time Will Howard needs, because then Jeremiah Smith is running that deep route because the cornerback is sitting there with blitz feet at 10 yards thinking, okay, if he makes a play like this, Will Howard's probably getting hit. Yes. Doing that, not getting that free. I mean, Jeremiah Smith is unreal.
I am so. Go ahead, Sherman.
Well, I agree with Taylor's sentiment on like the cover zero. Like we keep on talking about this because Will Howard in that game specifically did a really good job of letting the defense come to him, feeling that pressure, but staying in the pocket as long as possible and finding the guy. I mean, it wasn't just that play. Like he was staying in the pocket. He had composure. Same with Arizona State. Quinn Ewers was known for tearing up defenses that blitzed. And you're doing a cover zero in a pivotal part of the game against a quarterback that has done a good job against the blitz. You do kind of like scratch your head.
It's one play you look at over the course of 100 so plays on offense and defense. It's so difficult to not one play is always going to lose you the game, but that crucial of a moment with that many guys with that much firepower on in the receiver category, to me it's like play the sticks, keep everything in front of you, make sure your safeties stay back. And if they do get a chunk, if they get 4 or 5 yards, okay, now you're sitting in fourth and whatever, but you're third and 11. It's like, dog. I hated it for Arizona State too. That's another situation where I'm just like, dude. And if you're going
but
to
they didn't run true cover zero. They simulated a zero.
To what you were saying though is, if you're going to get up there, get your ass up there and get to the quarterback. Like it is the most basic rule number one of playing defense in football. Pop Warner, it's like, coach, I know what to do. Find the ball and go get it. Like you don't need to be at depth. You don't get your ass up on the line and run like
we're not keeping a secret right now.
Yeah, we are. There's no secrets here.
Yeah,
fully transparent. I'm trying to get you.
Yeah,
that's what you want.
You're not trying to bluff.
The quarterback to be flustered. And
right.
That's
what I'm saying. Like
and I like more of an exotic. Like I love the avalanche blitz, and the avalanche blitz is 4 down linemen. Your nose is now like a 2-eye, so there's more of a gap in the middle, and you're bringing 3 guys up the middle. Because when you get that, I talked about this at ASU Texas. When you get that type of congestion in the middle of the pocket, it makes it so much harder for quarterbacks to step into their throws. So I like when you bring the outside pressure, you can fade away, you can step up a little bit. But if you're bringing all just gaps, you can kind of hem that up for a minute. You can find that with your max protection with the tight end, the offset tight end, the running back coming up into the opposite A gap. Those are the kinds of things you can do. That's not it. But when you have 3 guys penetrating essentially 2 A gaps, that's when you're going to find leakage in a big way. I like that blitz. It's still a dangerous blitz. I would have probably elected to maybe bring 1 extra guy, keep everything in front of you, and try to add a pressure that way.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they still had a long shot to even win the game. You have them on 3rd and 10. You have to take a risk because Will Howard and the Ohio State offensive line was doing a great job protecting him all game. It's kind of hard. It's like you want to put pressure and get this ball out quick. It's like, and if they get you, it's like, hey, we had a long shot to do this anyway. At least we're going out trying to risk getting in his face. And you just have that little bit of hesitation by the guys on the second level, and that is not what you want to see.
I mean, you got to, when they called that zero blitz, that poor corner was saying to himself, all right, I got to have inside leverage here and just hope, I guess correctly. You're basically just trying to guess correctly in the situation. And that is horrible, because I'm sure there's a bunch of Notre Dame fans pulling him up in his Twitter saying, you're this and you're that. You ruined the game for us. That's a shitty position to be in.
Oh yeah, that's
on
not,
the island
like,
of all islands. You're not just having an island where like the safety's kind of in the middle of the field. Yeah, you're by yourself. Like truly, there's not anybody within 20 yards of you other than you and the receiver.
Right.
Lonely.
And that's where it's like
you, grass, and God. That's it.
People don't understand the game. People don't understand the game. They just see that cornerback get caught on. But when you're playing team defense, like that corner sitting there at 10 yards with inside leverage, trusting that his guys are going to get home. Go back, Sherm. Go back. Watch the dime backer up top. He has the tight end. Play it, Sherm. Just that little bit of hesitation.
So that small hesitation, he takes 4 steps. He's at the line, the initial line of scrimmage.
He's 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, like as everybody's penetrating. You know what I mean? Like that corner is trusting that the blitz is going to work for him to where a throw has to get made quickly. Jeremiah Smith's probably going to run a shorter route, or the ball's not going to come to him because the guy's in his face so quickly. Yeah. But right now, since that DB hesitated, he's 4 yards behind penetration. They have enough guys to block everybody now.
Yeah.
So that's how it all works together.
Go back to right before Will Howard throws the ball and then pause it. Right now, a little bit closer. Right there. No pressure.
None.
0.
Will did a great job getting the ball out. But right here,
you got to get the ball out. Right here, 0 pressure.
You're down 8 points, under 3 minutes left to go. You got to kind of take a risk. You can't let them try and catch one to where it's like 4th and 2 or 1 to where it's like, okay, they might go for it and just try to end the game like we see in the NFL. Like you have to take a risk to try and get in the quarterback's face.
To your point, that dime linebacker, it's one of those situations you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Like, yeah, let's say that tight end leaked out and you decided to blitz. Like you've now caused another first down. Like you're in just as bad of a position as you were before, given Jeremiah Smith being a one-on-one. But if you guess right and you just go, you might be the pressure that gets that throw off.
Yeah, that's why the technique is blitz first, because the tight end's only going to do 2 things. He's going to step in and square up. He's blocking unless they just run some exotic little slip screen.
Yeah, like a wide delay type thing.
Yeah. Or he's just going to flare right now. So as you're blitzing, if he starts to flare, release to the flat, you're just going to curve off and go take him. But as he's staying in, you already got a blitz mentality. You'll be getting pressure. You're going to try to get, something on Will Howard before he throws the ball. But that's like kind of the thought process of why he's running cover 0, because like you got to kind of take a risk here because you're down 8 points. It's 3rd and 11. If you get a sack or create an incompletion, they're punting the ball and you're going to have the rock with 1 timeout. Probably 2:40, 2:35 left on the clock to go try and tie the game up.
And then for those of you coming out the corner, who is this kid right here on the ground? That's not Will Howard. Is that 2?
Number 2.
Yeah, it's number 2. That's not Jeremiah Smith. Like there are holes. He could have thrown it to whoever he wanted in that situation.
Yeah.
It just sucks, dude. It sucks being a corner. It's why it's one of the hardest positions in all of sports to sit on an island. Like that sucks.
And
it's on that front. Getting there.
What's your thought on like a corner or a safety blitz, a blitz that you really don't see too often in that scenario instead of a cover 0?
Like a corner or safety blitz?
Yeah. Do you like that more? Like switching it up?
No, I don't, because if you're Ohio State, you're calling a max pro style because you're trying to play the same game. Like they're going to have to bring pressure. If they don't, this could be a 2-play formula for us. Like try and get closer to 4th down and potentially go for it, or burn the clock more, make them burn their timeout. So you're like defensively, you want to send your backers or your least able coverage guys on the pressure, because if you're taking your safeties or your corners, then now you're making your backers cover more. So that's why that one would go out the window, like for myself.
And also in a crunch time situation like that with max protection, 2 receivers out there, Howard's already thinking to himself, I got to get the ball out fast. If you're bringing a nickel pressure or a safety, and these are all from depth, it's going to take time for that blitz to come and get there. But with the max protection, it's not going to really be a factor. That should get picked up one way or another. I don't hate the idea of getting guys on the line and bailing the hell out of everybody, because that's like a big way to beat max protection.
Right.
Don't rush. Like
Right.
you said, your original
show
4.
zero,
Show
you drop
0.
out.
Try to handle that cadence where you get the hell out of there and you get that, maybe somebody bails sooner rather than later. So you get a big deep safety over the top, so those corners feel a little bit more comfortable.
But a lot of the time you listen to Notre Dame all year long, like this is a man coverage defense. They didn't really play a whole lot of zone. They just started to kind of mix it in.
They were in man, 56% of their snaps.
Yeah.
All season long. And that's just tough, man. It's hard. But
they made it interesting. I'm just glad they made it interesting for the national title game.
The reality is Ohio State was the best football team in the playoffs. Like they had an NFL caliber team. They have multiple guys that are going to go to the NFL. They should have won that game. They did win that game. They deserve to win that game. Like they deserve to be the national champions. Yeah. It was awesome.
Now that we have a champion, do you guys think that the 12-team bracket was the right format? Like, do you think we should have gone to 8 first, then 12? Like, what are you guys'
I think the
thoughts
first
on?
adjustment for the 12-team, like if it's like I enjoy the 12-team bracket. I thought it was awesome that we got to witness this for the first time. But to me, you just rank them how they're ranked. Like, not like the ACC conference champion gets a bye. These conference champions get a bye. I just think you rank the best teams. Whoever's in the top 4, they get a bye, or it's 4 teams, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4 teams got a bye. They get the home game. I would also like to see, Sherm was bringing it up on the pod yesterday, is having home games for even the semifinals, right?
G and I were talking about that last night at the house. I agree with all those things. It goes back to Kirk Herbstreit. His what he was saying after the first round of the playoffs was pick the teams that are the best, not the most deserving. The teams that get hot at the end of the season, the teams that are showing like, okay, they can actually make a run at this playoffs, not just because you won your conference. We're getting in a world now where the college landscape, where like conferences, they're losing their luster a little bit. You have the Big 2, you have the Big 10 and the SEC. And then there's a whole lot of discrepancy. Like, is the ACC really quality? Clemson had them for a couple of years, but other than that, like they don't have like a star-studded conference. The Big 12 made a big impact with ASU. Would have loved to see them win that game versus Texas to give them more fuel for this argument right now. But it's really like those 2 conferences. So that first round of the playoffs could have been a whole lot better. But I think with the way college is going and the way NIL is going, teams are going to start separating themselves. The good teams with money are going to separate themselves from teams that used to be good without as much money backing them. And you're going to see a big division of talent on one team compared to the next. That's where you're going to have to go in and look, because these good teams are going to be playing in these good conferences with a lot of money, where you're going to have to go now and sit and say, okay, this 3-loss SEC team or this 3-loss Big 10 team, maybe we let them get in, and there's an argument in a later date for this 2-loss ACC team or this 2-loss Big 12 team. It's just kind of what we're getting into. There's so much murkier water with NIL that's got to figure itself out before we can get a good, true, 12-team playoff. To answer your question, point blank, I love the 12-team. I love college football being extended. I love seeing unique logo versus a logo you don't usually see happening. I would love to see round after round, similar to the NFL, be played at a home field advantage for the higher seed team. Yeah, I love that. I think the idea of, obviously speaking for myself, like a mid-January game or a early January game in Ann Arbor, Michigan, against a Tennessee or an Alabama, like that is badass to me. That is cool. And on the flip side too, let's say like a Miami or a Florida team starts cooking up. You get these northern teams coming down. Now they're playing in the humidity when they're kind of used to that. That's a fun element that we got to see in the NFL this past weekend, which I think is awesome.
With the way the criteria is set up, I think no matter what, you're always going to have the argument of the best teams and most deserving. The most deserving teams, ultimately, it's like they'll get a shot. But if the criteria for the playoff is wherever you're ranked, that's who's going to, that could be based off the best teams, right? So you'll be having in the Boise, because they had a first round bye. Mm-hmm. You would have a Boise State, a deserving team to get a shot in the tournament. But if they're seated like where they're ranked, they're going to have to go to these juggernaut places to play an away game and still get their shot. So you can, to me, it's like you can have a good mix of both. If you expand to 16, you're still going to, no matter what, there's going to be a deserving best teams argument all the time.
And there's always going to be a
16
couple
seems
of
like a
lame
lot.
ducks that
Yeah.
kind of limp themselves into the playoffs. You start to get to the 12, the 16 teams. There's going to be one or two that's like, well, we got to put them in because they're going to be here, but then they just get ground and pounded out of there.
Yeah. And if you move to 16, you'll get these 3 lost teams that thought they should have been in. And they could, even though they have the powerhouse brand and everything else, they'll be able to prove it based on where they're ranked to go far in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you go to 16, though, like the college football national championship is going to be after the Super Bowl. And that just feels weird.
That actually brings up another good point. Another thing that I was thinking about that I've seen people talk about is starting the playoffs quickly,
Yeah,
that next week
I agree.
versus having time off, having weeks off.
Either
I
quicker,
then you get
100%
into it.
agree with
Yeah.
that.
either quicker, what we were talking about last night, having less time between games. Like, obviously, you want to have teams rest, have time to prep, but like 4 days between games, like kind of go while the iron's hot. So those teams like an ASU, can build off of that. They had to sit. They did make it a close game, but
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like we're sitting there that one weekend when there's not really football on, and it's the Army-Navy game, right? Like,
Yeah.
salute to the troops, but you almost pushed that game, move it up a week early, and you got to start the playoffs
y'all's,
sooner.
Yeah, somebody
your
was talking-
favorite person,
it's-
Paul Feinbaum, was saying that game, I could be wrong in quoting him, but that game should be the start of the season. Kick off the
Week
season
0.
with that, and then
I like
start
that
the
idea.
playoff.
Yeah.
the week
In
of
that week. So that way the teams who do have a bye, because you're still going to have 4 teams with a bye, it's only 1 week off. You're not taking like a full
Right.
month off.
Right,
That's
and
too
I
long.
think there might
Yeah.
be a world we get into if we start going down the road of, okay, let's start these playoffs a little bit sooner. At what point do we look at these conference championship
I was
games?
just about
Do
to-
they really matter as much as we think they do? Because the argument for I'll get into the argument of the Michigan fan in a little bit, but like if you look at just records, who you played, how you played, and how you did in your conference, essentially. Because what you can do is you can get some lame ducks in those first 4 weeks of the season. You can win those 4, then your record's truly inflated. But you get those 8 games. Your best record in those 8 games, that's going to decide who is the winner of the Big Ten, the SEC, whoever. Then right after that, you go into bye for the top seeds, and then you start going into your playoffs. I think that is a world we should be looking at.
The other argument for the conference championships, just something that I've thought about, is you have teams like Notre Dame that do not have to play in a conference championship. And it's nothing against Notre Dame. They just don't have to play in a conference championship. So there's not that extra game that could then knock them out. I think the difference between basketball, March Madness, and CFB with the conference game is you can be knocked out of the playoff in that conference game. Whereas in basketball, the slate is really already selected before those tournaments. I know some people say, oh, if you go 3 rounds in your conference tournament, maybe you're a bubble team, you make it in. I get that. But there's an actual case for the loser of a conference championship can then be kicked out of the playoff. So why the hell would I want to play in that? And if you get rid of that week, that then opens up another week like we're talking about for the playoffs to be played, which then allows for more teams to have a play-in, kind of like those first 4. In March Madness, you have a play-in round where it's like, hey, we graded the teams. These are our bubble teams. These are 12 bubble teams. That would be so much more fun than watching a conference championship of like, I don't want to watch Clemson, SMU, or whatever. I'm kind of shitting on the ACC. But even that week would be like okay, let's see if UNLV, who played a really close game against Boise, who made the college football playoff, and I believe UNLV only lost to Boise during the whole season, 2 losses to them. You then go, okay, UNLV, prove it against South Carolina. And it's played at South Carolina. And South Carolina's juiced because they're like, we're playing for a playoff spot. This isn't just some random bullshit conference game, conference championship. This is like, we can win the Natty if we win this.
You almost go back to the old, I know the Big Ten used to do it, but there wouldn't be a conference championship game. Somebody would just be the winner. It's like the NFL. In the NFC East, Philly is the division champion, so they're going to get the most benefit, where the Commanders have to earn it a little bit more. It's like you just do away with the conference championships. With the conference championship game, crown the winner, it would have been Oregon. And then, to your point, you have some good play-in games that next week versus conference championship games.
And then you get
I actually really like that.
you get into the argument too. Those last three weeks of the season, 2 weeks of the season mean a little bit more, because if you're sitting at, if you're Penn State and you're like, oh, we want to win the Big Ten championship. Like, okay, we need Ohio State to lose to Michigan. We need Oregon. So and then you have all these bracketeers and you have all these mathematics kind of situations going in. Like we essentially where you're talking to the team going, we're going to control what we can control. However, everyone knows we need these 2-3 things to happen for us to win the Big Ten championship. You don't want to just dive into another game when you're already slated to make it to the playoff, which is what you want to do. You want to win the entire thing, which is the national championship. Yeah. You go and do like, why would you go and risk injury for essentially a Big Ten championship, SEC championship that if you don't win a national championship, what's that? That's great. You own the conference. Congratulations. Other than that, it's like, you want to win it all. Do you think Oregon would trade with Ohio State right now? I think they would. I think Oregon would absolutely trade with Ohio State. They have a Big Ten championship. Yes. That's great. First time in the conference. It's amazing. They're the 1 seed. They're not even in the national championship. Does that affect them at all? You know? And I like bringing the schedule. Let's bring it in. Let's start that thing in December. Let's have it play through December. It could end right now like it did this year.
Yeah. I like the doing away with conference championship week. Take Army Navy, move it to week 0. It frees up 2 weeks right there. Where if you have bubble playing games that have some skin in the game, like your UNLV South Carolina example, and where bubble teams are trying to play into that playoff the next week, it really kicks off and ramps up. Have the higher seed teams, they have home games all the way up basically until the championship.
Yeah, the argument there is
turn it into like the
bowl
NFL.
Games, the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, all these bowls. They're going to want their time. People spend a lot of money. That's probably not going to happen. I think it's better for college football if we do have these, colleges, these college football teams that do well having home playoff games at their spot.
Yeah. And Sherm's got this question up here. Was Notre Dame the second best team? If not, who? Like, how can you argue that Notre Dame wasn't the second best team? Like they won 2 games that they were underdogs in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just kind of opening that to you guys.
Yeah.
More so,
that is a personal Sherm, which is all right. I love the fact that Sherm has a hatred for Notre Dame. Like Sherm doesn't want to go to heaven. He just
yeah. No, but more so, just kind of opening it up to you guys of like, did Texas impress you more than Notre Dame?
Based on the
it's just kind of. I mean, yeah, some teams play more competitively, but yeah, Michigan beat Ohio State. Nebraska lost by 4.
I think Oregon would have beaten any other team in the playoffs. They just so happened to have the unlucky draw of playing Ohio State in the second round.
Yeah, if Oregon's on the opposite side of the bracket, and Oregon has more, maybe
they're playing in the Natty.
Penn State. Oh, well, they would have played Penn State back to back, but they just got done beating Penn State. They had to take a month off. But if you're kind of playing more of a tune-up game since they're the number 1 overall team in the country.
They should have realistically played Boise or Arizona State.
Exactly. And if everybody would have been ranked accordingly, they would have got a game like that.
100%.
So if they meet in the championship, it's a much more, there's a lot more balance.
Machines, yeah.
Both teams kind of firing. Because it's tough. It's like even people in the NFL talk about, all right, the team who has the bye week, like, are they going to be rusty this week? You look at the Lions, they just got beat by the Commanders. Did that week off hurt them? Is a question mark. With college kids, you got 17 to 22-year-old kids, and they got a month off. Around Christmas break, Thanksgiving break time.
Right.
Keeping those dudes focused is a tough job.
A fun wrinkle. If you're able to have a bye, should we allow that team to opt out of their bye and give it to somebody else? If you've earned the right to have a bye, can you say, no, we don't want it? For the reason that you're saying of the rust.
Yeah. I mean, coaches.
It's a fun thought.
Yeah. With the current format, yes. But if we...
Right, if you tighten up the format, if you truly rank 1 to 12, I think that's going to clear up a lot of your problems. Even the teams that are most deserving, they're still in there, but they're like in the 10 through 12 range. It's like, all right, go try to earn your way through it.
I don't disagree with that, but the Dennis Kelly in me wants to bring up, like, so what do you say to these other teams, like Boise States or ASU's that ended up getting the buys, being like, oh, we won our division, we deserve to be in?
Arizona State was still ranked in like the 6 to 10 range. Like they would have still been seeded.
Were they?
I think they were like 10 or 11.
So they would have been, they wouldn't have had a bye. They would have
been on the road.
Neither would have Boise State. The teams that would have had a bye were Oregon, Texas, I think Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was Ohio State.
It would maybe Notre Dame or Penn State.
Notre Dame was 5. I remember them being, because they were in that sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. 5 is like sweet spot. 5 in the playoff or 5 in the final national ranking?
I can't remember. I think it was in the playoff.
Yeah,
that gray area is tough. You just need a clear set of rules.
Yeah, it was Penn
so
State.
here
It would have
is.
been Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and Penn State all would have had buys.
Mm-hmm. And then ASU would have been 12. Yeah.
No, because wait, is that right?
ASU's at 12 right there.
Clemson was in, so Clemson would have been 12.
Right. So ASU would have been out. Which is crazy.
No,
Because
No.
No, Clemson would have been 11. Alabama's in this.
Yeah, Alabama's in that one. They get pushed
Gotcha.
out. Clemson's
Gotcha,
back.
gotcha,
Clemson would have been
gotcha.
12. Arizona State
Which
would have
is
been
right.
11.
That should have been, that should have happened from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, good news though. Big Ten. I was listening to Collinsworth this morning, and he's like, "There's the Big Ten's about to start running away."
And I think too,
In a
Notre
big
Dame will be back in this situation again next year.
I was going to ask y'all, like, for both of these coaches, Ryan Day, after losing to Michigan, it's like, okay, keep an eye on Ryan Day. Suey watch. Wins the national championship, has a relief off of his back. Marcus Freeman, rumored to interview for the Bears, but it seems like they've built a good culture, like brought the culture of Notre Dame back to like true fashion. What do you think like their future looks like? Like, to your point, is Notre Dame going to be right back in the mix? Ohio State, we know they're going to be there, but
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Freeman's like individual goals are. Like if he wants to go to the NFL, if he wants to go to a bigger powerhouse. You see when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame to go to LSU, it's like, man, Marcus Freeman, if he just had recruits and got more talent, it's like Notre Dame still brings in talent. Like what people forget about,
they have money too.
What people forget about Notre Dame is they're not in a conference. So all the money that they're getting from the national title is going in their bank account. Whereas Ohio State splits it amongst the conference.
Yeah.
So there's a lot like Notre Dame's going to continue to be the spot that they're in year out because they have nice recruiting classes and they're going to have money. And if Marcus Freeman stays, he's kind of laid out the culture.
Yeah,
it just depends on what he wants personally. Like if he's trying to go to the NFL ranks, or if he feels like, hey, if Alabama's job was open, would he want to go to Alabama?
it seems like Notre Dame's job is like pretty solid to have.
Notre Dame's a great job. I don't know how they get recruits there every year. I mean, South Bend has nothing.
Yeah, no
there.
disrespect to South Bend.
Right.
Okay.
Strict
I
kind
guess
of
we're disrespecting
culture,
South
strict
Bend.
kind of vibe. Like I know they have tradition, but that stuff kind of dies off within the NIL world that we're in, the modern era.
Yeah.
I know we got to get rolling because we got the
Yeah, we got a stream.
We
got our stream going on.
receiving a $20 million payout.
Yeah. I mean, where does that go?
Yeah.
Notre Dame received $20 million payout.
That's crazy.
Hell
That's
of
awesome.
a year in college football. I thought it was awesome. I thought those two teams being in the national championship, it all kind of sorted itself out, even though you're bummed for like the Oregons of the world. But I thought it was an awesome year.
Awesome. It was.
Stoked for next year. Stoked to see this keep building.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also move the portal till right after the season.
Yeah.
Move the portal till right after the season.
Yeah,
so
because
these kids will
that's
stay
an
where they
interesting
want to
thing
stay.
for Ohio State because they're losing. I think they're losing their entire defense. Their entire.
And their quarterback that was going to start next year.
Oh yeah, he went. Where'd he go? He went to South Carolina.
Well, they do have 2 weeks after their final game. So Notre Dame.
Yeah, but
and
you see
Ohio State.
all of it. It's like the NIL transfer portal is so similar to the free agency. Day 1 and 2 of free agency is where you're getting your studs. Then you get guys like, hey, we're gonna negotiate this deal, that deal, blah blah blah. But your high caliber guys go in the first wave of that transfer portal or the free agency. So Ohio State doesn't have like the pickings that all these other schools happen to have. And you see that transfer portal right now. Michigan is cooking. They are putting it together. What did you say yesterday? 6?
Yeah, and so is South Carolina.
South Carolina's getting after it
South
too.
Carolina
pretty
cooking in that
nice.
portal.
Let's
Looking
go.
nice. JP knows what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
All right, feel good?
Feel great.
Big hugs, tiny kisses.
September 20th this year, Bussin' Bowl's back.
Bussin' Bowl is back.
Never too early. Never too early to get excited about the Bussin' Bowl.
Yeah.
Big hugs, tiny kisses. Please subscribe.